Unit 10, Section 2, U.S. enters World War II. Today we're going to talk about the domestic impact. Domestic impact, the term domestic means home. So what we're discussing is how did the war affect Americans living in the United States? First, we're going to talk about war mobilization. So before we go any further, let's talk about the root word for mobilization, and that is to mobilize. That means to get ready. What war mobilization means is that the citizens of the United States had a responsibility to help the military win the war. And so, but the difficulty in that is that at the same time that the United States was wanting to help its military win the war, it was still in the middle of a depression. So the government formed agencies like the War Production Board, and its responsibility came to be to force American industries to begin to produce war-making products. As seen in this picture, this may have been a Ford Motor Company plant that was converted to build B-29 bombers. Bullets, military uniforms, other equipment needed by our military needed to be made by private businesses during World War II. Women and minorities played a tremendous role in filling the defense jobs that came available when many of the white soldiers left to go fight in the war. This is a government propaganda poster used during World War II, referred to as Rosie the Riveter. And in her hand you'll see a very large instrument used to rivet sheet metal together, maybe to build fighter planes during World War II. This was to encourage women and minorities to get into the defense industries and to help the United States win the war. Here's another example. The government also instituted a system of rationing. This picture shows ration cards issued to families based on family size. The more children in the family, the more ration cards you would get. Gasoline, bread, sugar, meat are all examples of items rationed by the government to ensure that our soldiers would have enough materials to win the war. Propaganda posters were put out by the government. Here's one that says, do with less so they'll have enough, and that's referring to our military. Last but not least, one of the things that the government did was, because of Pearl Harbor and because of the sneakiness of the attack, many Americans were curious, and many Americans, to be honest with you, had nativist attitudes towards Japanese Americans, German Americans, and Italian Americans. So the government built internment camps during World War II and forced Japanese Americans on the West Coast and German Americans and Italian Americans on the East Coast into these internment camps. The most famous one was Manzanar. It was about 236 miles northeast of Los Angeles. Many of the camps were built on either the eastern side of the Rockies or the western side of the Rockies. This is one picture of Manzanar, and these are the barracks that the Japanese lived in. Now, they were prison camps from the standpoint that they were guarded and there were barbed wire. They were inside of a barbed wire enclosure, but the Japanese were allowed to come and go as they pleased inside the camp. This is a poster giving the Japanese instructions on reporting to the camp. This is a picture of the amount of room that each Japanese citizen would have inside the barracks. And then this is a map showing where the internment camps were built across the United States. This concludes Unit 10, Section 2, Domestic Impact of World War II.